All right, everyone. I wanted to do a quick wrap-up video on the things that I like and do not like about the Push. I tried to keep it to its simplest form, and we'll go from there. By the way, thank you guys for your feedback on recording the video. I think the first video I recorded was, the first two videos I recorded was kind of weird, so I redid them. Now I kind of use the mic stand to help get this angle that you're seeing right now with my cell phone. So I'm using the mic stand right now. So real quick, here are the things I like about the Push. The first thing that I like is the way it samples. I mean, you can come up with some really quick ideas with the samples in the simpler. And when you go into warp mode and you hit warp, you got the different modes and you can play around with those and come up with some really cool ideas. And you have the glide mode, and which is pretty nice. The second thing is it's one DAW. What I mean by that is I don't have to put the MPC in as a plug-in and then set up the count in. That never quite, the count in part of it on the MPC in the DAW. Now I'm working, now I kind of got an idea. It's one DAW. It's a one DAW that already has the audio track, so the audio track's there, so I'm good there. So that's awesome. The next thing that I really like about this is the split screen view on my desktop. So I have a clip view with all the mixers, and then I have the split screen with the MIDI notes. So that's awesome. The next thing that's really awesome about this is the plugins. It's very simple. The cool thing is, if I'm clicking the drum rack shows on the screen and I see what I got in the drum rack. If I go to a plugin, for example, the plugin shows up on the screen. If it's a third-party plugin, it'll pop up and you can move it to the second screen, and every time you go back to that plugin, it'll pop up on the second screen. But everything shows up right here depending on how you mapped it. Bar none, just awesome workflow when it comes to the plugins, and it's easy to read where you can't read it on the MPC at all. So you're hoping you remember, and you try to set up the naming so it's something easy to remember. So those are the things I really like about it. I haven't really been disappointed with it. The things that I do not like, quickly, with the MPC, bar none, you can get your ideas out pretty fast on the MPC, because you start out creating a new sequence, creating different tracks using whatever programs that you've loaded and whatever plugins you've loaded. If you get bored with it or you're not quite feeling it, you move on to another sequence, start all over again, change your tempo to what you want it to be, and just keep it moving. And you can do that however many times. I've gotten up to 28 before I'm like, okay, I think I like this. Now this is banging. On the Push, you really can't do that. You gotta save the live set. Once you save it, go into session mode, and then delete whatever clips. It could be all the clips, or it could just be some of the clips that you like and don't like, and then keep it moving that way. Then you got to change the tempo. That I'm not that used to. It's not that big of a deal breaker for me. The only plus to it is I'm saving more often than I did on the MPC, but it can be annoying, especially when you're like, oh, I like this, but I want it to sound like this, and then you just move on and do something different in a new sequence. Can't do that with really with this. The next thing is, and when I say next sequence, I mean next sequence. Say the first one was 90 BPMs, but you're like, oh, I want to do this. Now that's 88 BPMs or whatever. The tempo changes or whatever. So that's what I mean by that. The next thing is the 16 chops. When you go into the sample and you choose simpler main, you have the choice of one shot and slice, but when you slice, you only have a choice to use this sensitivity thing. And I kind of wished it would just chop it up for 16 pads. Just boom, chop it up for 16 pads and you're done. You line up your sample, chop it into 16 pads, you're good to go. But that's, it doesn't do that. The next thing is, when you go, and this is just a workflow difference. In the MPC, we're used to pad mutes. I'm gonna just quickly load something, and you can kind of see what happens, because again, you'll kind of see why the MPC, because the MPC, you just go from sequence to sequence. On this, you got to load a live set, and you'll notice the whole screen goes off. It's loading the set. Then you answer whatever questions come up on the screen. It's asking me, do I want to save? I'm going to say do not save for now. But it tells you what's, the screen is asking for your attention. So right now you're seeing the real-time processing of it loading a new live set. And now it's just about done. Now it's loaded that live set. And then let's go to session view. So this part is a little different because you're creating different clips on different tracks. So what's happening is you may decide to play this, this track or whatever. And then it plays. I'm not playing it now, but it plays. And then you have to record that in what's called arrangement view. What happens is once it shows up on your screen, when you try to play it, it's going to play one of these, whatever last track you played on here. And you're kind of looking at the arrangement view going, I just hit play, but it's not playing it. So on the screen, there's a red rectangle on the screen where you have to click that to turn it off, and then it will play the arrangement. The arrangement will come up in full color and then allow you to play it. The next thing is when you go to record your project or your arrangement and save it to your computer, you can only save it as a AIFF file or a WAV file. There's no choice for MP3, which is weird, but they don't offer it. So because I have the MP3 software, I just thought on my toes real quick, save the arrangement as a AIFF file or a WAV file. Either one of those files will work, and then just put it in the MPC software and export it as a MP3 and save it so I can play it in my car or something real quick to kind of check it out, see what it sounds like. So those are the things I like and do not like. Overall, the biggest takeaway is if you already have Ableton and you already like using Ableton, and you get the push, you can't go wrong. You just can't. If you're B, new to computer programming, and you're starting with Ableton, and you get the push, you cannot go wrong. You will not go wrong. If you've never used Ableton at all, meaning you already use Pro Tools, you already use Studio One, Fruity Loops, some other DAW other than Ableton, and you're used to using your MPC, then this is going to be, the push is going to be quite a leap, because you're used to a certain level of production, and you're used to a certain level of tracks, and a certain level of plugins, and a certain level of this and that and the other. So you're going to spend way more. You're going to have to get the suite version of Ableton to get what you're accustomed to on your other DAW that you're used to, and the push, and that's pretty expensive. And I think that's where the Wren excels. The Wren, for whatever reason, they future-proof themselves on that part of it by making it available to you in a DAW as a plugin. And you can do so much more with it that way, versus the push is only usable with Ableton only. So if you have the Ableton software, you're going to enjoy it. If you've become accustomed to producing in Ableton, you're going to love it. If you're new to recording and it comes with this the light version of Ableton, you're not going to feel too restricted at that point, because you're just trying to get used to it. But if you're coming from another full DAW, Pro Tools, Studio One, something like that, and you get just the light version of Ableton, it's going to feel too restrictive. So overall, for me, it was a good buy, because I've already had Ableton Suite, and I got the hardware to drive it, and I have a sound card as well, because this doesn't have a sound card. It turned out to be a good buy for me. So I hope this information helps you decide whether the push is right for you or whether it isn't. But either way, most places give you 30 to 40 days to try it. Just bang it out hard and dive into it, and you'll find it's pretty easy to learn as far as setting up everything. The hardest part was figuring out the clips and scenes, what clips were versus scenes. And you can choose which way you want to work there. But that was the hardest part. For me, it wasn't really hard. It was just a different way of thinking with Ableton. But once I figured it out, I was like, oh, okay, this just like creating a track and just duplicating it multiple times and just hitting that pad. Instead of hitting the pad that I want to play, I'm creating the clips down this way and hitting the pads that I want to play. So, and then that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. Enjoy your Christmas, and hopefully this helps you out. Keep making great music.